God bless you, and welcome to another episode of God at Work. I am finally, after over 5 weeks, out of the hospital, and I'm home. But I'm not quite ready to do a full program, but by next time I will. By God's grace, I will be ready, and we'll be doing it live next time. But I've got another program for you that I think is going to be valuable for all of us as we enter this new year, and it's called In His Time, showing how a lot of things that happen and that we've got to do might not seem quite in the right timing. But if it's His time, it is the right timing. And it might change our plans completely, as you'll see in this video. But His outcome is always the important thing. That it ends up His way doing what He needs when He wants it. And it's awesome what happens when we do things in His timing and allow Him to have His way. So I hope you enjoyed this, and I'm sorry I can't quite do it live yet, but we'll be ready. We'll see you next week. God bless you. Bye-bye. God bless you, and welcome to God at Work. Today, I'm going to be looking at a subject from the same trip as last week, on the trip to Norway, where I learned so many lessons on how things have got to be in His way and His time if all that He has planned and lined up is going to be accomplished. I would never have met that little boy from last week on the streets of Bergen if I had not lost all my luggage. And the same thing with this trip. I wouldn't have been on this airplane if things had gone the way I had planned them. So Jerry's going to start with a song for us called He Leadeth Me. And it is so important that no matter what it is we're doing or where it is we're going, that He is leading and guiding and directing us along the way every step that we take. So Jerry, He leadeth me.
Oh, blessed thought, oh, words with heavenly comfort fraught. Whate'er I do, where'er I be, still 'tis God's hand that leadeth me. Sometimes mid scenes of deepest gloom, sometimes where Eden's bowers bloom, by water still or troubled sea, still 'tis His hand that leadeth me. He leadeth me, He leadeth me, by His own hand He leadeth me. His faithful follower I will be, for by His hand He leadeth me. Lord, I would clasp Thy hand in mine, nor ever murmur nor repine, content whatever lot I see, since 'tis my God that leadeth me. He leadeth me, He leadeth me, by His own hand He leadeth me. His faithful follower I will be, for by His hand He leadeth me. And when my task on earth is done, when by Thy grace the victory's won, even death's cold wave I will not flee, since God through Jordan leads He leadeth me, he leadeth me, by his own hand he leadeth me. His faithful follower I will be, so by his hand he leadeth me. He leadeth me, he leadeth me, by his own hand he leadeth me. His faithful follower I will be, for by his hand he leadeth me. Yes, by his hand he leadeth me.
He leadeth me. And I tell you, that was a lesson that I really had to have dug into me on that trip. I guess God knew I needed that lesson because, first of all, my flight from Milano, Italy was late leaving, which caused me to arrive in London late. And I had a very, very short connection time for my flight that was a direct flight to Bergen, Norway. Very short connection time. And so as I was exiting the plane, I said, look, where do I need to go as quick as possible to get to this flight, to catch this flight? Where do I need to go? They looked it up and then they came back and said, okay, you need to go over there, take the bus over to Terminal 4, and it'll be such and such a gate, but you're going to have to run. So believe me, I was running and I got there and they closed the door. They said, the flight's off, you missed it. And I looked at it, but it said flight 2 and it was a different city. I said, that's not the flight. This was supposed to be going to Bergen. And they looked it up and they said, oh, Bergen, Norway, that's this gate. They'd sent me to a wrong gate. The gate that I needed was actually right next to the gate that I came in at. So I was already starting to get a little bit frustrated rather than, okay, God, this is your trip, it's your will. And I got back there and I got on the flight. We got out onto the runway and we were waiting for takeoff. And already I was going to be late. Already because I was going to be arriving in Bergen pretty much at the time my meetings were going to be starting. But now I wasn't going directly to Bergen. There were no more direct flights to Bergen. So the flight that they got me on, I had to go from London all the way up here to Oslo and then back down to Bergen. So it was putting me even later on a completely different path than I was planning on taking. And it was making me even later. But, I was thinking about it. Okay, God, this is your trip. And I don't get it, but I'm going to be late. And I hate being late. That's a characteristic of Canadians. I'm not quite that way anymore because I've been so used to working in other areas where time really doesn't matter. So anyhow, I'm on this plane. We're sitting out on the runway, waiting for takeoff. The captain comes on. We have an hour and a half wait out here on the runway before we'll have clearance for takeoff. And now I'm really starting to get, an hour and a half, I'm going to be even later, and finally I got up and I went up quite angry. I pretty much had lost my Christian cool. And I got up there to the flight attendant and I said, look, I need off of this plane because I have got to change flights. And she said, what do you need to get off this plane and change flights for? You can't do that. We're in the middle of the runway. I said, I don't care. I have got to get off this flight. I'm going to be extremely late for my meetings, and I have got to find another way to do it. And she said, ma'am, you get off this flight and get on another one. You're going to be behind us in the lineup to take off. Okay, I get it. So now I'm still pretty frustrated and I head back toward my seat. And then the Lord said, you need to apologize to her. Because I was not acting real real calm. I went up and I said, look, I'm so sorry for getting upset with you. I know it's not your fault. So please forgive me. I'm just really frustrated. I'm not used to being really late like this, and this is going to kill. I'm not even going to make it in time for my first meeting. So anyways, I got heading back to my seat. I said, okay, God, why am I on this flight, having to go way out of my way, all the way up to Oslo, going to be late for my meetings, which is why you have sent me here to Norway. And then I'm thinking of the verse in John chapter 6, verse 38. It says, not to do my own will, but the will of him who sent me. I know that's Jesus talking, He said he hasn't come here to do his own will. And I'm sitting there, but okay, God, I get it. I've not come here to Norway to do my will, but the will of the one who sent me, which is you. And so I'm back in my seat. Okay, God, why? And the Lord very clearly, as if somebody standing beside me said, you're here to speak a word to the man sitting next to you. Now, come on, I'm on an airplane. I've never met this guy before. And all of a sudden, God tells me, you need to tell him that if he has that affair with Rachel, it is as unto death. Now, come on. How do you go to a guy that you've never met, you don't know from anything, and you say, look, you mess around with Rachel and you're going to die. Now, come on. That's not something easy to do. And so I'm stumbling a little bit, and finally I look at him and I said, oh, so you're on your way to Oslo? And he said, yes, I am. And I said, oh, what are you heading into Oslo for? And he said, oh, I have to meet somebody. I said, oh, are you meeting with Rachel? He looks at me. I mean, his eyes just about bulged out of his head. And he said, what are you talking about? I said, well, are you meeting with Rachel? Because I'm supposed to tell you that if you are, it's as unto death. He said, what do you mean? Have you been talking to my wife? I said, no, I didn't even know you had a wife. And he said, well, who on this plane knows me? I said, I don't know. I don't know anybody else on this plane. All I know is that I wasn't supposed to be on this plane. And for some reason, obviously for you, God put me on this plane, had me upgraded because of the mess the airlines made up. So I'm sitting right here beside you in business class on an absolutely full flight. And he's looking at me and he's talking. And so I said, so what kind of business is it you have in Oslo? He said, well, I don't really, I'm going to see Rachel. And I said, well, is she your business associate? And I said, or is you just going up for this affair? And he said, well, I haven't seen her in, several years now, but we used to be very close. And I figured it was time. And then, of course, he was having some problems at home with his wife, and he was trying to escape. I said, look, trying to escape the problems that you've got right now with your wife, this is not going to help it. It's going to make it worse. And as I said, I was told to tell you by the Lord, that's the only person on this flight that I know. And he said to tell you that if you had that affair with Rachel, it was as unto death. So he says, has my wife hired somebody to do? I said, I don't know. All I can tell you is what God just told me. Anything else? I don't have a clue. So we started talking a little bit, and he asked what I was going to Norway for. And I said, well, actually, I was supposed to be on a direct flight to Bergen, missed that flight, got stuck here on this flight going all the way up to Oslo and having to come all the way back down to Bergen because God wanted me to give you that message. So he said, well, what are you doing in Bergen? I said, I'm speaking at a conference. Well, what's your conference on? And it actually was entitled Hearing the Voice of God. And he looks at me now and he says, oh, he really does speak to you. I said, well, that's why I'm here on this flight. Not because I wanted to be. I actually got quite upset with the flight attendant, as you probably saw, because I didn't want to be on this flight and be missing my meetings in Bergen by being so late. And so we talked a bit more, and we just shared a little bit. And he shared how, he'd gone to church as a kid and walked away, and his wife didn't even know that he had any Christian background. But because they'd never talked about it before they got married. They never even talked about anything to do with Christianity or God or anything else. And so we talked and talked. And the next thing you know, he said, look, he said, I don't understand exactly what's going on, but I can see that you're very serious. And I know it probably wasn't easy for you to tell me that if I messed around with Rachel, I was going to die. I said, no, it most certainly wasn't. I said, I don't know whether you were going to reach out and punch me or, call the flight attendant to get rid of me or whatever. I didn't know. But what I did know was that it was so important that God had me onto this flight when I had no idea why. And it's like it said in the book of Luke, chapter 22, where it says, nevertheless, not my will, but yours be done. And I had to be saying that to God. So when we were sitting back there, when we were sitting on the runway, we got that storm going. There was lightning flash and storm everywhere. So we were really stuck waiting. And as things cleared up, finally, there was such a long lineup that we had so long to wait. And so I said, I thought it was rather kind of unique when I told you that God had me here to give you that message and told you what it was. And you got up and wanted to get away from me. You wanted to escape as far as you could. You tried to go back to economy. And you were offering to change seats with somebody so that they could come up to business class and you'd go sit back there. You wanting to be a nice person, and you just wanted to get away from me. And I knew that. So then you went into the bathroom and there you are. And this guy, he was a big man. He was big. I was bigger then than I am now. And he was about twice my size. He was huge. So he's sitting in the bathroom. People are knocking on the door. There's a long lineup for me because we're all sitting there waiting for our takeoff. And you're shouting out of the bathroom. It's busy. It's occupied. Can't you see it says occupied? And then the flight attendant came up to you and you said, look, I can't get out of here. I'm busy. I can't. I'm going to stay here. And she's telling you cannot stay there, sir. Either you get out now or you're going to be taken off this plane by the police. So when you came out of that little tiny bathroom where I know you weren't comfortable and tried to head back to economy again, she stopped you and pushed you in towards your seat. Saying that if we missed our time of takeoff, you would be removed from the plane by police. So I knew it wasn't easy for either of us, but I knew that God had a plan. And he said, well, this God that you're talking about, he's more real than I ever knew him to be. And I want this real God. So then as we were getting ready to land in Oslo, and he looked at me and he said, look, I need your help. I don't know how much time you've got between your flights. And I said, I've already missed it. My flight from Oslo to Bergen, it's already gone because we were still late leaving in London. And he said, well, I would really appreciate it if you would come with me and help me change my flight to head straight back to London. If I walk out these doors alone and I walk out through security, I'm going to walk straight into the arms of Rachel. And I don't want to do that. I want to do what I know I need to do. And I need to go back and make things right with my wife. So I helped him get his plane all switched around and get him back on a flight and went with him to get him back on the flight to London. And he got off okay. So now I was really stuck. Finally got on another flight to get down to Bergen quite a bit later. And I ended up, as I told you last week, arriving in Bergen 5 hours late. But I told you that story last week, so I'm going to carry on here. So anyways, after I got down to Bergen, did my meetings, got back to Canada, and about 10 days later, well, maybe a little bit more, I got a letter. Well, first of all, I got a phone call from the guy. And he was phoning and he was saying, because I gave him my number and I said, look, if I can help you find a church in London area, I would be happy to. And he happened to be in the area very close to a dear friend of mine's church. And so anyways, he phoned and he said, look, he said, I don't know how you knew exactly what you needed to tell me, but I just got a letter. I'm going to mail you a copy of it, but I just got a letter from Rachel's mom. I didn't know it, but when I was heading up there, Rachel was actually living in a hospice for AIDS patients, and she was in latter stages of AIDS, and she just died. But if I had gone there and had any type of, the close, intimate contact with her, there's no way that I would not have been infected. And it was as unto death, as you said, for me. So when God speaks, he speaks clearly because it's so important. But we need to remember, I needed to know, okay, God, you're the one that's sending me on this trip to England. You're the one that's put me on that flight in England to come up to Norway. You got me on the flight completely different than what I had planned, to go all the way up to Oslo rather than straight to Bergen. But why? Not to do my own will. Get on that flight to Bergen and get up there quick to do my meetings. But Lord, I had to be willing to do your will. You were the one that sent me. And as upset and frustrated as I got, I learned a really valuable lesson on that trip, that my way and my timing were not the best, were not what counted. But I needed to be willing to say, okay, God, not my will, but yours be done. And there's been many situations that I've been in after that trip helped me so much to not get angry and frustrated like I did then. So I'm going to ask Jerry to do a song here called Whither Shall I Go? Because no matter how hard I wanted to try and get off of that plane and get onto a different one, I couldn't run from his spirit. I could not flee from him. I had to say, okay, God, your will be done, not mine. So Jerry, whither shall I go?
Even though I ride the wings of the morning and dwell in the depths of the sea, you will always be there to love and guide me. Your strength will always support me. Whither shall I go from your spirit? Whither shall I flee from your presence? I could never be lost to your spirit. I could never go away from God. Lord, you've examined my heart and my thoughts. Everything is known by you. You chart the paths ahead and tell me where to rest. Every moment you know where I am. Whither shall I go from your spirit? Whither shall I flee from your presence? I could never be lost to your spirit. I could never go away from God. Oh, whither shall I go from your spirit? Whither shall I flee from your presence? I could never be lost to your spirit. I could never go away from God. I could never be lost to your spirit. I could never go away from God.
I can never go away from God. But you know, thinking about it, if I had been allowed to get off that plane and go my way, I would have been running away from God, running from what He had for me to something that I thought I was supposed to be doing. But I needed to learn. I couldn't be grumbling and complaining like I was on that plane to the flight attendant. But like it says in Psalm 34, verse 1, it says, I will bless the Lord at all times, even if those times don't seem to be going the way that I think they should. I will bless the Lord at all times. His praise shall continually be in my mouth. Not my grumbling and not my complaining, not my frustration, but His praise shall continually be in my mouth. That entire trip was such an important lesson for me. Not only the flight exchanges, but the luggage not arriving and having to go downtown Bergen. I would never have been downtown Bergen to meet that little boy last week if my luggage hadn't been lost. Did I like having my luggage lost? No. Did I like having to wear the same outfit every single meeting? No. But nevertheless, Lord, your will be done, not mine. Your will be done, not mine, Lord. And there's been a lot of flights where I've had to really stand firm and declare that, because it's got to be His way, not mine. So let's pray. Heavenly Father, I thank you for this lesson that you taught me on this flight. And I pray, Father, that it will be a good learning experience for others that are listening and might need to learn that same lesson that I did. And I still have to deal with it quite frequently, Lord. So, Lord, your will be done, not mine. Father, thank you so much for that life that was changed, that you saved, that you directed, and Lord, that you delivered him from the trap of the enemy, Father. So, Lord, I ask that your perfect will be done in his life, in all of our lives that have been listening, Father, that we will learn to yield to your will, not ours, without grumbling and without complaining. In your precious name, amen. Hallelujah. Well, it's a wonderful ending. That man went back to England and he reconciled with his wife. He told his wife what had happened. He told him the story of meeting me on the plane and wanting to slap me across the face and tell me to shut up and quit being so rude to him, etc., and how he tried to hide in the bathroom for an hour, etc. I can tell you that would not have been comfortable. Those bathrooms were never comfortable, even for me when I was, quite a bit bigger than I am now, but half of the size he was. And so I know he could not have been comfortable in there all that time, but he was running from what God had for him. Just like I wanted to run from what God had for me, to be there for that man. So I hope this has been an inspiring encouragement for you, and that it will be a good lesson that we can all learn to do it his way, not ours, to trust in him, knowing that he has his plan in mind. And that's really what we want to follow. So if this has been a blessing for you and you'd like to sow a seed and help this ministry, please feel free to do so. Jerry will put all the information up on the screen for you as we close. God bless you. Have a great day. See you next week.